Today's Q&A is about coatings, and the question is it true that pots and fruits and medicine could be coated with something that's not kosher? And the answer is like this. There's lots of things that are coated, and there's a lot of halachic discussion about if that is or is not an issue. I'm not going to be able to talk about all those details today, but I'm just going to give some basic directions based on what most people sort of generally accept as what's correct. Our first group is pots and pans. Now, part of making pots and pans is you put oil or fat onto the surface as a lubricant. Most of the time, that doesn't pose a kashrus concern. There are two potential exceptions. One is when we have a pre-seasoned cast iron pan where fat or oil is put onto the pan in the factory, and the point is that they should stay present. Now, some people only use those if they kasher them, in which case they would kasher them with hagala. Second is, other people feel it's not a concern, but many people will only use them if they kasher them first. A second issue is disposable foil pans, which they are greased so that when the machine stamps them into shape, it takes this flat piece of foil and metal and it stamps it into shape. That doesn't rip the metal while it's doing that. And most assume that even that's not a concern, even regardless of what that grease is made out of. But some people will only use those with hashgacha, meaning they'll use it with someone who's making sure that the grease that's used on there is kosher. Okay, our next group is fruits and vegetables. So in order to maintain moisture and make fruits and vegetables look nicer, certain ones of them are coated before they're shipped into the store. That might be like apples and bell peppers, cucumbers, peaches, tomatoes. Those are some common ones that have this. Now, the coating, the part that actually does the job, the functional part of the coating, is a wax. It's made of carnauba wax or shellac. Shellac is also known as confectioner's glaze. Carnauba wax is not kosher sensitive at all, so it's perfectly fine. And some people will not use shellac because it comes from an insect, and they consider that to be non-kosher. Most people in America follow the ruling of Rav Moshe, who says that shellac is permitted, and therefore they don't worry about that. There are other smaller concerns, which is the alcohol and emulsifier is used as part of the process. They don't do the actual coating, but they're used as part of the process. And there's a bunch of halachic reasons why most people don't consider that to be a concern. Now, in the United States, in some countries, there are hashgachas actually on the fruit itself to make sure that these waxes are kosher. It's very uncommon in the United States. So most people just eat them as is and ignore this possibility. They consider it not to be a concern. Some people who want to be concerned about this will remove the coating. And if you want to do that, you could try is boil up a pot of water, dunk the thing in for 10 seconds, which will soften and loosen the coating, and then you could scrub it off with a shmata or a towel. Okay, next is tablets, like medicinal tablets. Most people assume that they are kosher regardless of what they're made of because they're inedible. However, sometimes they're coated with shellac just to help it go down, swallow it well. These are tablets that you swallow. And most people, as I mentioned, consider that not to be a concern. Sometimes there's a sweetener put on the outside, like a sugar, put on the outside of the tablet, again, to make it easier to go down. And that's not a kashrus concern either. It is sometimes a Pesach concern. Sometimes that sweetener will be kitnias and a concern for Pesach. Once in a while, there are tablets that actually have a flavoring on the coating. And it would be listed. If you looked in the ingredient panel, it would say that there's a flavor in there. And whether that is or whether that's a reason to not take the tablet is something you should speak with your rabbi. That's a question. And our last group is paper and plastic. So many paper plastic items like plates and cupcake holders and crock pot liners are coated, but it's assumed that they don't pose any kind of concern because they're innocuous or they're bottle or they're inedible or things like that. And one exception to that is quilon, which is a kind of baking paper, and that should only be used with hashgacha.